Sit down.
Thank you.
You have such outstanding qualifications.
Yes, sir.
Why do you want to join civil service where there is no use of all your qualifications?
So although my qualifications per se will not be used directly, the knowledge, but the skill sets which I have acquired during this knowledge or my education will definitely be useful.
It will, we agree. But frankly, tell us, will it not be like underutilization or whatever, let's say, the society has invested in you to ensure that you are a postgraduate from IIT, now doing PhD?
Yes.
Is it not like that investment goes either waste, not waste, but underutilized?
Sir, it will not waste because I am working for the country. So I am contributing towards the country in a different manner. That's also the resources are not being waste or underutilized.
But so do all other IIT graduates. Don't they work for country?
Sir, some of them go abroad, so that in that sense we can say that those resources may be wasted.
Now with the change of citizenship rules, can't you serve the country by even going abroad?
Yes, sir, you can serve the country by going abroad. Just I wish to contribute towards public governance and good governance, which is a field I like to continue. So that's why
We would also like to explain to you this increasing trend of IIT graduates wanting to join civil service.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think with this age, many good students and bad students are getting attracted to the civil services, which is in fact a good thing.
No,
Good
how
officers.
would you explain why IIT graduates?
Sir, they have cracked one of the most difficult exams to get into IIT, which is a testament to their brain power or abilities. And if that is used for good governance in the country, that is definitely...
No, I'm afraid you're not getting the question. In the first place, nobody looks forward to joining IIT because later on you want to join civil service, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
IIT is like prestigious, but it's for engineering education.
Yes, sir.
Having done that, why are more number of IIT graduates seeking to join civil service?
I don't know specific reason for this trend. I'm not aware of any specific reasons. But I feel that the youth of this country in general is getting frustrated over many scams and corruptions.
That is again youth in general.
Yes,
Again,
sir.
not IIT. Why
Sir.
IIT?
So I'm not aware of any specific reasons for which this is happening.
We can also explain, like I'm sure you know that last year out of top 20 in India, 18 were engineers, 12 of them were IIT graduates. We can explain why they succeed, that we know.
Yes, sir.
Question is, why do they go there? Why do they want to join civil service?
So I'm not sorry, I'm not, I can't explain this trend. I don't have any I can tell you why I am doing it.
Yeah.
Taking the same analogy, see you're a topper from IIT.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
you're also an expert in laser technology.
Yes, sir.
It's a great thing, a great combination.
Yes,
So I must congratulate you on that. And taking the same thing ahead. Assuming you join a scientific fraternity, assuming you join ISRO, assuming you join NASA, something of this sort. Maybe your expertise would be better utilized. Because do you feel so or you don't feel so?
So I don't feel so because contributing to public governance or in the public field has always been an attraction, especially in a company itself. I was introduced to UPSC and I met a few of my colleagues who were preparing very hard, and I found out more about civil services, and I felt that I would it pleased me more to work for in service than in this.
I think it's also personally to you because you are given your hobbies as reading, blogging, dancing, acting and chess.
Yes, sir.
So will that not suffer when you enter the services that are quite time taking?
So some hobbies might suffer, but especially the ones like reading and blogging.
What do you make out of the latest
Blogging,
yes,
sorry.
sorry.
Blogging will be restricted, I suppose.
Sir,
Blogging will be restricted once you enter the service.
there will be some freedom of speech will be retained, but in general you can comment critically on issues. All you can do is you can't participate in anti-government protests and stuff like that. But that doesn't stop you from expressing your views on criticism.
You have analyzed the results of the UP elections day before yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Must have gone through.
Yes, sir.
What are any three indicators? Positive, negative. What does this bring out?
In the UP elections, the manifesto, the program of the Samajwadi Party this time was more progressive. They used work, whereas Mayawati was banking on the vote bank of the rich. The Congress organization there itself was weak. That was admitted by the Congress leader itself. We chose one candidates and our party structure there was not perfect.
Do you think that there is also a message coming up? Within the organization, the party is more important than the individuals. You think is this perception correct or wrong?
To launch a party, you need an individual who is charismatic, but after in the long run you need to have a strong party organization.
What is the telephonic density currently in India?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the figure.
You are from telecommunications, right? So, the spread of 2G and 3G, how has it affected the connectivity in the country?
So especially in villages, you also find cell phones now. So that is an advantage of.
What exactly is the difference between 2G and 3G?
So 2G has a small bandwidth. It can only the speed is limited of transactions. Whereas in 3G you can stream video with higher bandwidth and the faster flow of
That
information.
has something to do with the bandwidth or something like that?
Yes, sir. Higher the bandwidth for 3G, which enables faster transactions and live video streaming and other things.
And what is 4G?
4G is still higher bandwidth, but it is not yet fully exploited in India or elsewhere in the world.
How does it differ from a satellite phone?
I'm sorry, I don't know, sir.
Your earlier efforts and today,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
how special efforts you have put in to reach over there?
In my past attempts, I was not able to fully exploit whatever I studied or my abilities. This time I made a few changes. I focused more on writing simple answers instead of having detailed facts and figures. So simple points based with answers. And I think one possible mistake, I don't know, I made in the last attempt was the word limit of my answers was more. I was exceeding my word limit. This time I made a special effort to contain my words. So maybe that is.
Would you like to be born one day before or 2 days afterwards from your birthday?
So I like my word limit.
Yes, that we appreciate. How about either being born one day before the present day or 2 days after the present day?
So 14th April is the birthday of Prasad Chaphekar. So he is a great, but that would have happened if I had been born 2 days afterwards.
That's what I'm asking you. What would happen or how would you think or would you like to be born 2 days after or 1 day before?
I would prefer to be born on the same day because even many important events happen on this date as well.
What about 11th of April?
11th of April, I don't remember essentially.
There are historically famous Chaphekars.
Yes, sir.
Who are they?
So they were the ones who killed the commissioner of Pune, Grand, because he was committing atrocities in the name of inspection of plague victims.
You justify use of violence for achieving freedom.
So beyond the point, it is necessary to use violence, but if you want to involve the society as a whole, then you cannot rely on violence. You have to use non-violent means.
Are you any relative of theirs? Any descendants?
So not direct descendants. But we were related a few generations back, not directly.
There is so much of discussion about India and China being the engines of growth for the world, right?
Yes.
Do you agree with it?
Definitely, India and China will be, are the engines of growth. The GDP growth is the fastest in the world. But about China, there is some uncertainty about the political of the future. So if that comes in jeopardy, then that might hit the world growth. But otherwise, yes, It is true that there are regions of growth.
But then going by the present reports, everybody says China has overtaken India by leaps and bounds.
So that is true. Definitely true. Even the Prime Minister admitted that China is far ahead of us in science.
How would you explain? How come China has gone far ahead of India, not only in science but in almost every walk of life?
So, one possible reason, I think that the Communist Party which came to power, their agenda was very aggressive in the first place. So they always wanted to or dominate the world. And with the Middle Kingdom complex, they always think that they are the best in the world and they have to dominate the world. And from that spirit, fighting spirit, I think they try and force their way through no matter how.
Is it actually our democracy that is slowing down our pace of development?
In some ways, yes, but I would not shift from democracy just to achieve growth. But in a way, yes, it does hamper because of there is a lot of debate in public which reduces because there are court
See,
delays.
in the previous chapter of global history, this was Cold War between US and USSR.
Yes, sir.
So here was a totalitarian system versus a democratic system. There we see that the democratic system outperformed.
Yes, sir.
How come India is not doing well?
So India still, there is a lot of corruption, first of all, in the public sphere. And corruption which really affects the people. Corruption is present everywhere, but in India it is particularly widespread and so that affects our growth. That is one major point. Then in some ways the politicians have to pander to the popular will. If, for example, if they have to demolish slums, then they have to take care of their vote bank. So they refrain from doing certain actions due to the whims of the public. So that
In
is
a
one
way,
reason.
are you almost saying that India is not really suitable for democracy?
So we are definitely suitable for democracy. Other people who
If we are doing such a bad job of development, how can we say ourselves as suitable for democracy?
I feel that if one man dictatorship is imposed on India, it will soon break up because people will not agree that without our consent, someone will rule us anymore. Because there are so many different
Then what to
languages.
do to ensure that actually democracy performs better than a totalitarian system? What should we do?
So first of all, the procedures should be fair and just, which are formed. Then the public should be more aware and partaking. Otherwise, without public support, democracy will never work. So
How would you explain the lack of sufficient voting percentage in the recent elections in your own state?
Sir, typically the middle class who does not vote in these elections. So I think,
Is it the middle class or is it the elite class?
elite and there's the upper middle class and the elite class which do not vote in these elections. I think, primarily because since they have the resources of the income to fulfill them and
But they are the first ones to come out with candles whenever there is some issue.
Yes, sir.
Candle marches are conducted by the elite.
Yes, sir.
And your model does not come through about the ZLP elections.
Sir, ZLP elections, even in the ZLP elections, the elite don't vote as much as the poor people. That is a trend seen everywhere in India.
But if the elites are so much in number in even the rural part, then it should get developed. Why not?
So,
And on balance, what we are trying to come to is India is not suitable for democracy.
so I don't agree. I mean, it says that democracy is the worst form of government until you try others. So I feel that without democracy, it will be even more we go down the drain.
We discussed the same issue of democracy, what we started. You made your beginning saying that both are the growing power, India and China.
Yes, sir.
There's a perception across the world, and we would like to know your views on that. That though we call India the democratic power, but one of the biggest, largest dynasty who may it be in Lok Sabha, may it be in Vidhan Sabha, may it be in Gram Panchayat.
Yes.
It is a dynasty building. But as you see in China, nobody which inherits the power has anything to do with the previous one. Right from Mao Zedong onwards, those who came to power, there's nothing to do from that family. Do you see anything in this too? And is there any scope for us to learn from them?
Sir, first of all, I don't agree that there is no family membership or in recent years there have been many scams in China which have been committed by the party members and their relatives. They have built up huge companies of their own which the government gives full support. So there is nepotism even in China. Yes, the transition is not dynastic, but I would still prefer a leader which is chosen by the people other than someone imposing it from top. So if it's dynastic, then fine, then it's their will. So we should respect them.
I'll just take the China issue ahead. Do you feel that China is tightening the noose around India?
So yes, they are. But we are not far behind. We are also retaliating.
No, but they are surrounding India with their naval bases,
Yes,
their army bases,
yes, sir.
in the north and all around the Indian Ocean.
Yes, sir. It is true. India is taking steps to change that and also reverse them. We have
What steps is India taking?
For example, last year there was a collision between two ships, one Japanese and one Chinese. The Japanese took the Chinese as prisoners, and in response, China stopped all the rare earth exposed to Japan. So immediately, India and Japan signed a deal to explore rare earth minerals. This was a fast move and a smart move to counter. Plus, we have signed deals with Mongolia.
Considering that these are the two fastest growing economies,
Yes, sir.
the tightening of the noose by China around India, how will it affect the future development of India?
If India does not take adequate steps to protect its boundaries, then the supply routes from west to east, which pass the Indian Ocean, those might go under the influence of Chinese Navy, which is a bad thing for India.
Do you feel there could be another Himalayan plunder?
I don't think that China will attack India directly. They will try to squeeze
They are
us out.
already threatening Tawang, Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes, sir. They are threatening, but I don't think they will take any direct action. Maybe they will support the insurgent groups in India, or they will pay other countries to take anti-India measures. But since
Their role in Pakistan, for example.
yes, sir. So they won't use their power directly. They would give their power to some other countries and then hope that they would take anti-India measures. So I don't think we will get into conflict with China directly.
What is dumping?
So dumping is mass-produced goods in your country and sell them at very low prices, even either below the cost of production, which you have in your country. So that is dumping.
China has been accused with dumping
Yes, sir.
in the European nations as well as in India.
Yes, sir.
What can we do to prevent that?
In the WTO, there are anti-dumping laws which we can invoke to impose duties on those things which are made. But first of all, we need to first stop the smuggling of Chinese goods into India. Because those goods are available without any duty whatsoever. So
But you have a very porous border through which this smuggling can go on. How do you control that?
and we should obviously work on the border issue with China. But the smuggled goods don't always come through that border.
Is the problem of northeastern India, the Purvachal as it is called, one of the reasons why this is possible?
That is one reason, yes.
What are the problems there?
Sir, the path which connects India, the heart of India, to Purvanchal, our roads are very narrow there. For example, if you block one highway, I forget the name of the highway, that cuts off the entire supply to Sikkim. And there are often big blocks there. But the government is trying to transit routes to Bangladesh to overcome this difficulty, to reach to those states faster. That is one main problem, why they feel isolated.
Prasad, let us go back to your dancing.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it means you have taken a professional coaching for?
No, ma'am, I just like to dance in events of my college, group dance events.
Group dance.
Yes, ma'am.
As an officer,
Yes, ma'am.
are you ready to dance at somebody else's tunes?
No, ma'am, I won't dance and support the tune unless I like the tune very much and I feel that I should dance.
Is it subject to your liking?
I'm not liking in the sense of my rational thought and my objective decision making. Not just because someone is singing.
Suppose you get posted to state like UP or Bihar,
Yes, sir.
where the Holi everybody is supposed to dance along with the minister. How do you control yourself? You join them or you would like to maintain your identity of your own?
So I won't join them if I'm in a charge of maintaining law and order. Then I won't join. But if I'm going there as a tourist maybe on leave, then possibly I will join.
It's anand1
Yes,
at
sir.
gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't tell anything about you. What do you say?
I didn't understand the question, I'm sorry.
That's your email ID.
Yes, sir.
It's anand1
One.
at gmail.com.
Yes,
It
sir.
doesn't say anything about Prasad.
Sir, my parents call me Anand at home. So that's why I put it's Anand. And I couldn't get it's Anand, so I had to pick it one before that.
But it doesn't say anything about you.
So it is true, it doesn't say anything about it. But the email address is not required to say anything about it. So,
That makes it Baba Amte's place.
Actually, that is what I thought, Anandman, we are referring to Anandman.
yes, sir, but it's just my home name. So,
What do you like to read?
so recently, I have read a book called Emperor of All Maladies by Aniruddha Bhattacharya. It's a book about the biology of cancer. And recently,
Is it Aniruddha Bhattacharya or Siddhartha Bhattacharya?
Siddhartha Bhattacharya. Sorry, sir.
How come engineer read a book on medicine?
Sir, I had biology as my optional in 11th and 12th. So I had some interest there, but not much. And when I read that book, I got the Pulitzer Prize. I thought I should read it.
What does he say about cancer?
Cancer is ever a shape-shifting enemy. And to fight an enemy, you first have to know yourself. That is your body. That is the central message of the book.
Are all forms of cancer incurable or some of them are curable?
Some forms of cancer are curable. When all forms are curable, just we don't know how to cure most of them.
If it is detected at what stage can you cure some form of cancer?
Some cancers do benefit from early detection, but not all cancers.
How about blood cancer?
Blood cancer, yes, if you detect at an early stage, it is helpful. Leukemia can be cured at an early stage if it is detected.
How is it cured?
Sometimes we use chemotherapy drugs. The first drug which was discovered was a drug which targets the cells which grow the most, which have the which
Isn't blood cancer fully curable now?
some forms are fully curable, not all forms.
What is bone marrow treatment?
So bone marrow is that you replace the bone marrow with some other bone marrow which is harvested from some other person or from your own stem cells or something.
Isn't bone marrow used to cure blood cancer?
So you can use bone marrow, but that is not a guarantee of cure. Some cancers are still uncurable, blood cancers, because a cancer comes in many different forms, blood cancer.
Can you tell me the name of the largest Harappan site in India, excavated and non-excavated?
I know the largest site in India, I think there are two of them which I am confused from. One is Dholavira and the other is Rachigadi.
Now, these two sites, they are urban centers.
Yes, sir.
Do you think there was some rural structure also in the natural Harappan?
So mature Harappan, yes, there was rural structure because they had to source the food grains from the villages. So there had to be villages, but we have not found any definite proof of that. But since it's an urban center which needs surplus from villages, we can conclude that there have to be some sort of village structure.
Pakistan of all is changing policy regarding Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Are you aware of it?
No, sir, not aware.
What is history?
So history is to understand the past, to understand our present, to make our future more better.
Is it really possible to understand the past?
To understand at least some parts of it, if not the whole picture.
Isn't partial understanding more dangerous than no understanding?
Not always, sir. Sometimes even the partial grasp of things, that is one view of things, can help to understand the present better. might not always know all the things in past. But from whatever you know, we can make a reasoned argument.
Out of your entire syllabus for history optional for UPSC,
Yes, sir.
which part do you like most?
I like part of India. Sorry, I like the part of India after independence. Okay.
Yeah. Would you say India's national integrity is increasing or decreasing after independence?
So after independence, there was for a few years there was a crisis, but after the few general elections, I think people have not accepted India as a fact, and no one thinks, or at least most of us don't think of ceding away. So the integrity is not.
Sorry, my apology.
No.
The integrity is not under threat per se now, but if you don't check some threats like nationalism, for example, then it can come under threat.
Talking about history only, which is interesting. Your interest lies in the history, particularly after independence.
Yes, sir.
As we study history today, we say Mughals came, Alexander came, Genghis Khan came, so many people came, they have done this outburst. What will our coming generation think happened to India after 47? Pakistan came thrice, 4 times. Chinese came, they were surrounding us, they were even fighting. Do you see a relevance in the history of past and today? And what will our young generation think of it? How will they look at us when they come up to the age?
It is indeed true that we have been repeating the mistakes which are done in history, especially against the northwest border. Even today we have terrorists coming from the northwest part of India, from the Kashmir. Still we have not taken enough steps to change that. And regarding China, our policy needs to be more realistic than ideal to counter these threats.
So are we writing a golden era of Indian history, or there will be scope for further degradation, upgradation?
I think currently we are going well prepared, but we can't afford to be lax at any point of time.
And as a ruling class, what can you contribute to make this era memorable in future?
Sir, I can contribute in the sense because I don't trust my intuitions, I trust facts and objective analysis more than my intuition or what my moral beliefs are. So I'm more realistic in that sense. And if there is an imminent threat, I was just reading a book called Flirting with Disaster, which talks about what happens when you ignore the weak signals of disaster. So I would be careful not to ignore these weak signals which are an indication of an impending disaster.
What is the foreign policy of India with reference to China and with reference to Pakistan? Which do you feel is a bigger threat for India?
I think the biggest threat is China and Pakistan coming together. But taken individually, China
Do
is.
you feel we have any foreign policy regarding the dealings that we have with these neighbors?
So I feel we do have a foreign policy, and
What sort of foreign policy do we have?
India has not given in to any of the Chinese threats or aggressions. We have responded with maturity since. But our goal has always been to settle the boundary dispute with Arunachal and in the east, as in Ladakh, for example, with China. And we agree with China's said doctrine of peaceful rise. We must be skeptic about that.
China is having an expansionist attitude.
Yes, sir.
Maybe in the future it would want to come into India itself. How are we going to tackle that problem?
India is massively stepping up its infrastructure in the northeast areas, especially the Sukhoi place, for example.
As you said, northeast areas are already practically cut off from India. They depend on single roads,
Yes, sir.
which can be blocked and everything is just
Yes, sir.
over,
Yes, sir.
paralyzed completely. So
we
how
need-
we plan to
we need.
tackle China, or as I asked you, that we do not repeat for a second time the Himalayan pattern.
Yes, sir. First of all, we need to build infrastructure, that is roads, airports, etc.
China has done it, we have
How
not
is
done it.
every house on a chessboard name?
Yes, sir. It does have a name. It is ABCD on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other axis.
And how are moves described?
Move describe, for example, if you want to move with the king, then king stands for K. So if it is king has moved from F3 to say F4, then you need K F3 F4.
Have you studied, say, Gary Kasparov's moves or some Vishwanathan Anand's moves?
So I have not studied their moves, but I know their general style of playing. I have read about their styles of playing. I've seen
Who
some
would you
games.
say has been the most glamorous chess player so far, ever? Most glamorous ever?
From what I have read and I have seen, it is Anand Vishwanathan.
You haven't heard of Bobby Fischer?
I have heard of him, but I don't know much about him to say that whether he is the most.
What is a quantum computer?
So, quantum computer, so I'm not sure of the exact nature of quantum computing, but a quantum dot.
It has anything to do with cloud computing?
So cloud computing is a slightly different area from quantum computing. It is an approach as to how to compute or to distribute resources rather than actual computing task itself.
What is DNA computer?
Sorry.
Why is Manasseh becoming strong in your state?
So Manasseh is becoming strong in my state because first of all, Raj Thakre has his own charisma over the people. That is one reason. And so far, at least, he has refused to make any degradable negotiations with partners.
Isn't his whole plank narrow and sectarian, dividing India on linguistic lines?
In a sense, yes, in a way, yes. But as long as he doesn't openly say that Maharashtra is only for Maharashtrians.
Will he say openly the kind of fights he is picking up with Hindi-speaking people?
Yes, sir.
Will that contribute to India's national unity?
No, sir. That won't contribute.
And then more and more number of Marathi-speaking people voting for him. Does it mean Marathi people are turning kind of away from nationalism?
They are not turning away from nationalism, but yes, in a sense, they are becoming more narrower in their approach towards other languages and people from other areas. But that is not necessarily anti-national in a sense. It is
Which movie got the best movie, the best actor, best script?
In the national awards, sir?
Yeah.
Devul won the best movie award.
Have you seen that movie?
Yes, sir, I've seen the movie.
Do you know its producer?
I think it's a man named Golab, but I'm not sure of his first name.
He's engineer. He's a businessman again. So are engineers now encroaching on all fields?
It is a testament that when you're an engineer, you can apply those skills almost anywhere.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.